Record. Hello everyone. Hello. So welcome to the Talking Stick Show. So today I've got JotePrakash and Jonny with me. So I'd like you both to introduce yourself separately. So we'll start with you, Jonny. Hello.
Hey, thanks, brother. Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, my name's Jonny. I've been on Dale's show once before, and that was great. It's good to meet you then, brother, and thanks for having me back. Yeah, well, my journey's been very much based around meditation and spirituality and discovering who I really am inside, uh, discovering stillness and love and a spiritual identity. Um, that's based transcendental identity, and that's really there's my cat joining us as well, by
Meow. Meow meow. Meow meow.
and yeah, my journey's really taken a turn to like emotional healing and healing the wounds of the past and understanding what kind of wounds I'm carrying and learning to heal. And I've discovered a few different modalities that have really helped me. One called Psyche. I've discovered NLP, and I've used that to kind of discover my subconscious mind and how to reprogram my subconscious mind to heal and to overcome these emotional wounds that we carry. And yeah, lately I've been doing a lot more breath work, and I've developed a breath work journey, and I do that one-to-one with people, and I also run events. So I had a big one on New Year's Eve, had a big turnout. We did a huge breathwork session and a conscious dance, which was just amazing, wonderful, and it's all drug and alcohol free. So it's a special experience to have that. And of course, lately I've been doing some men's work with JotePrakash as well. So me and my best bro here, the proper bromance in the center of it all, and we take men on an amazing weekend, amazing journey, and I'm sure JotePrakash will have a lot to share about that. But for me, it's been like one of the most hands down transformational things ever. Just being in a space with men in a loving space and really like going like into your edge of comfort and like beyond into that space of like, well, like this is like beyond where I've ever gone before, right into my darkness or my fear or my shadow, and alchemizing from that space. So it's an amazing journey unfolding, and JotePrakash is leading the way, creating this new community in Newcastle, and we'll be there. I'll be there helping him out with that. So there's a lot of exciting things all kind of coming together at the moment, and I've got my business, Freedom Seekers, that combines everything that I do, and that's really what I'm bringing into this year. More events this year, and more one-to-ones, more men's work. So it's all very exciting at the moment.
Outstanding. And I remember the last time we spoke, so much change has happened since the last time. I remember what you were planning on, what you were doing then to now. To see so much progress and development within you and JotePrakash as well. It's incredible, and it's like we're all going through that process of relearning, learning, letting go what needs to be let go of. So it's great to see you, Jonny, and yeah, thank you. So JotePrakash, if you'd like to introduce yourself as well, brother.
Hey everyone, good to be here. Thanks for having me, Dale.
Hello, bro.
I think leads on quite nicely from what Jonny was saying. I think one of my biggest drivers in life at the moment is to be at that edge and be in this state of like questioning and also listening in places with people. So over the last few years, I started with Kundalini yoga teacher training, was my first way in to the spiritual path, I guess. And then finding the lack of men in the community to be upsetting for me, and I just really wanted to bring people into this vibration of what I've been discovering on my own journey. So then creating spaces where men could gather was a big driver. And yeah, now it's really about like creativity. You know, I'm really interested in creativity and how we can create sacred spaces where creativity is like, it blossoms from within us, and it's like, how can we express ourselves really authentically in our creativity? I think that we often barely touch our creative potential, you know. So and I think that's because we're so racked with shame about like, how are we going to be judged if we become creative beings? And like Jonny's saying, like everything that I'm doing at the moment with creating this community is such an act of creativity. It's just like writing a book, and I've in the last few years been writing a book, and there's so much doubt that you have to face, and it keeps coming, you know, because this weekend we're setting up the year, and there's doubt, there's icky things, there's challenging things. And I think if you want to get a little glimpse into my mindset that I've cultivated, and it's summarized quite nicely when we were taking down the yurt by a good friend of you guys both know him, Chris, who's a little druid as well, and he said, "JotePrakash, you look like you have no idea what you're doing most of the time, but it always works, and I don't understand how."
So JotePrakash, your journey. So before you were running events and had a place near York. So do you want to tell a bit of a backstory about what's the process of going through that? Because you've gone through a lot of different experiences and growth, and like you say, you're using that creativity to set up a sacred space in Newcastle to have your own bubbles of reality in a sacred way. So do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about the past and where you've come? Because the Rising Dawn was in York, and you had loads of great events and equinoxes and so on and so forth.
Yeah, man. In terms of the Rising Dawn, it was set up on my granddad's land. It was set up maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. And we were running community gatherings. I did the men's camps. We did Kundalini yoga teacher trainings. And we had our regular community gatherings called Wellness Wednesdays. So I was quite involved in all that and setting up different things. And yeah, that was really, it was like a amazing space where I could learn how to do all this stuff. And I think I was learning by just starting, not quite needing to know exactly what I was doing, but just starting very, very gently, holding space here and there, like helping out and watching and having mentors, people who like I could look at and really watch. And I remember when I was going to events and, you know, just really observing every little thing that someone who I would like admire or respect, you know, sitting at the front holding the space. I'd be like really observing everything they were doing down to the tiniest little kind of things with the fingers, and I was like, just sort of like opening my heart to like let that in, which completely just, yeah, I was just learning a lot, learning about how to run community and learning through drama most of the time, learning through conflict, you know, learning through challenging times, to the point where now coming to it again, like setting up a community again now, there's just like even very subtle things that I can't quite put my finger on that have changed, like different way, we're just starting in such a different way. We're starting with a lot more clarity. We're starting with a lot more openness. We're starting with a lot more knowledge on conflict resolution and creating harmony within groups and business as well. You know, one of my biggest things over the last few years is going from being in that space with strong visions, strong like right brain creativity vibes, but then lacking in this like bringing things down to earth. And in my human design, I'm a manifestor generator, and apparently that's what we do. We're good at like, we get things moving, get a lot of energy invested in something. But the challenge for manifesting generators is like bringing that thing down to earth and landing it and finishing things that we start 1,000 things, but yeah, now really learning about business this time around, and how to actually like earn enough money to keep going. That's one of the reasons why we had to stop it last time, was just purely because we were trying to do things like very community centered and have these donation based gatherings and things like that. And we would end up paying, we would end up paying out of our own pockets to run things. So it was this constant, like, we're in service, but not receiving anything back. So opening to receive back as well, which is essential in order to sustain what we're doing. It's not a good service if it's not sustainable. It's going to just die out, and people might have been relying on us, and then suddenly, boom! You see that in people all the time. It's like, look, I can serve. Yeah, I'll look after you. I'll hold space for you, and you. And then people are, okay, great. Yeah, I'll go into that space. And then because they've overstretched themselves, suddenly there's a moment of burnout, and then boom, and the whole house of cards comes tumbling down. So digging roots deep in the ground.
And that's a great way of looking at things. I've experienced that myself, and you go through that stage at the start of the awakening where a lot of people, myself before, have done it, where I've charged literally nothing for what I was doing, and I was basically in a state of lack and a state of this kind of karma all the time. I wasn't valuing who I was, and it was only till like a few years where I did a marketing course. I did business courses like you've been doing, and learning how important it is to value yourself. What you're doing, JotePrakash, what you're doing, Jonny, is valuable, and you're paying for what the service is. And from my perspective, it's, if you do charge money for your sessions and events, it reflects on what you do, because there's no amount of money really what can reflect what you two are doing, and it's hard to put money on that. But when we start bringing in lack, like you talked about, JotePrakash, then we start getting overworked, burnt out, where we just basically give out all the time. We end up becoming ill and poor ourselves from being kind of a bit of a martyr to the situation. So that's a great way of explaining that, JotePrakash. Really cool. So Jonny, how have things been with you since we last? I think JotePrakash is gone. I think his signal's gone. So perfect, Jonny. So how have things been with you for the last few years on your journey? How have things been going?
Yeah, well, last time we spoke, I launched that business together with my girlfriend Olivia, and but it seemed, as I'd started progressing in the healing I was doing, it seemed like I was coming up with all these processes that really suited just to do it on my own, and Olivia's doing her own thing too, and we still hold spaces together, and we've grown a lot together, and we're getting married soon. But yeah, my journey has been, one of the biggest things is creating this breathwork journey. I found doing that on my own, just the breathing, how much it releases blocked emotions. I experienced so much healing and so much crying and joy and feelings of just bliss through just doing the holotropic rebirthing breathing, continuous breathing in and out. It just really clears emotional things that are in the way and helps you to open up in an incredible way. And coupling that with the music, my love for music, having that in the headphones and exploring really like beautiful, expansive music. It took me to some amazing places, and then I spent a long time just holding my body in different ways and feeling like the energetic effect, and from all of the energetic work I've done with yoga through the years and different practices, I was just feeling what these postures were doing in my body, and exploring like our inner feminine and our inner masculine, and when we hold a particular posture, we're connecting with that feminine aspect, on the left side of the body, and then on the right side the masculine, and that entwines with how we receive from life, and how we give, and how when we hold these postures we can like harmonize this receive and this give, and how we connect with ourselves, and how we open up to life and the world, and how we kind of contain our energy and be a complete kind of centered individual. All of these processes I came up with, the body postures, really were amazing for me. And what I found is when I just like sit in those postures with that open state and just let my consciousness flow, there's so many insights. You know, people talk about intuition or the higher mind or connecting with a higher self. I find that when we just open our heart and clear those blockages that are in the way and sit in these postures, we're connecting with the intuition, because, you know, that general chatter of the mind just kind of clears out of the way. And we're in this space of just openness. You know, we're not judging what's coming up. We're not trying to grab hold of it. We're just open, and we're in a loving space. And I think that it's quite simple. You know, it can seem quite like far out, or you have to be some sort of psychic to be connected with your intuition. But when you can just like clear these tensions and these blockages and get out of this just prefrontal cortex, just like in the logical thinking, when you just open your heart, there's so much wisdom there inside. There's so much guidance from within, and that's what I love to do. I help people to connect with their own guiding wisdom inside. You know, I hold space for that, and it's amazing the kind of resolution that can happen when people are just given access to that space. They are their own healer. They resolve things by themselves, and I just guide them into that really rich, fertile space where, when you're open, there's so much insight. So I've been helping people with that, you know, one-to-ones and in groups, and so beautiful. I love just to see it unfold, you know, see what happens when people get given access to that space. The transformation that happens is amazing.
Outstanding. And it could be a good topic to start with is self-development. And as JotePrakash was started talking about his self-development and some of the stuff he went through, what has your self-development been, and is there anything you could recommend or give advice for people who are on this spiritual journey who find it hard? Because for me, one of the hardest things on the path is to stay on the path and stay grounded, stay happy, stay in the body. So is there any advice you can give for those who are wanting to progress and they feel like they're a bit of a stuck point?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think knowing that we are our own healer, you know, and even when we're in community, like, which is really important too. But like when we're in community, it's allowing other people to guide us into ourselves more, you know, and knowing that there's so much power within us to resolve our issues and to overcome our emotional troubles, and from the baggage of the past. Like if we just hold space for ourselves and just be with ourselves in a loving awareness, that can be so powerful. And you know, it can be so powerful to just resolve things just by bringing your awareness into something. So I'd say my biggest thing that I tell people is sometimes to just slow down and to just be with what's arising within you without running away from it, without trying to change it. It's learning to accept and be with what's arising inside, and whatever way you can find that helps you to do that. You know, there's so many things. There's breathing, there's dancing, there's meditation, there's yoga, there's lots of things. If you can learn to just slow down and sit with yourself and just observe and allow the resolution to happen just by offering your awareness, then there's so much transformation that can happen there, and it's very simple. So it's really uncomplicating things, and this is, I say, like, you know, allow your own guiding wisdom inside to lead you there, and that's found in just slowing down and just being, and then you'll find your way, like, because we have that inner compass inside, and it comes from the feeling and the heart, and each one of us is on our own journey. You know, we're the ones, we have the compass inside that's guiding us there. So slow down and start listening to that.
And that's it. That's something I've learned out the years of doing it, is that things have to, you take your time. That's so right, is doing stuff, but doing it in your own time, not doing it too fast. Because I was the same like say 4 or 5 years ago, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, wanted to set this up, and I was doing too many things and doing it too fast, and I burnt out. And I've now realized how important it is to take your time with it, really slow down, and stuff like you were talking about breath work, which has completely changed my perception and whole life, completely turned it around from doing breath work pretty much 6 days a week for just over a year. From that point, when I kind of look, I was doing it, but I wasn't doing it like actual doing the breathwork stuff. And something like that for me was, it was a big change in my social anxiety or anything going forward. And it really made me aware of how much I was not breathing properly, how much I wasn't slowing down, how much I wasn't being in the body. And it's phenomenal how something so simple like breath work can be so transformational for someone. And from my own experience, it transformed my life. It's incredible. The first few times I started doing it, I was crying, I was in tears because I felt that fucking good. I was like, how can you, I was saying to myself, I was like, how can I feel this good? Like the dopamine release, the low blood pressure, the relaxing state. When I first hit that, I was like, wow, wow, wow. And I could tell my attitude, my happiness completely changed when I started just doing those simple breath work. So we'll bring you in, Joe Prakash. So we're just talking about the journey and transformation and some of the things which block us from expanding. And like you were saying at the start of the show, from your expansion, if you'd like to just talk about some of the regular stuff which block us and how can we go forward from that.
Yeah, the blockages. Well, I think it usually boils down to trauma, and having had experienced some trauma in our past, and then really that then almost being the thing that drives us, and it really gets stuck in the cells. It gets stuck in the body, you know, and you see it if you've had trauma when you were young, you know, like let's say you felt terrified at some point, your whole body probably did this, you know, you just clench everything, shoulders coming in, crushing the heart, the rib cage, you know. And for me, the first part of my expansion was to move into the body and basically go from what was probably quite a closed body position, and that's going to be exacerbated with screens and everything. It starts to curve your back. You start to like really just, it's almost like you can physically see a blocked heart, you know, it's like that. So I guess for me, through the Kundalini yoga, a lot of it was just trying to like crack open this and pull it, like almost like physically stretching the heart. And with that, all the emotional and mental and all that started to open too. You know, like I'd be doing stuff where you have your arms out to the sides and you're stretching through your heart chamber, and crying my eyes out, you know, like Dale is saying, just like when you first came into breathwork, just this, like there was so much emotion. It felt like, and I used the analogy the other day of like a river that was all blocked up with mud and sticks and stones and things. And the first part of the journey, you're gonna have a backlog. So anyone who's feeling like they're just too messed up or too like, you know, much to be able to kind of really rise up in this time, like, well, you're probably dealing with a backlog of emotions. So be gentle with yourself there, because it's you couldn't expect to clear out this river in one shovel. It's going to take a bit of time. It's just going to be a slow process of unblocking oneself. Yeah.
Outstanding. And that's reminded me, I remember you talking about this on the last show about the river and stuff blocking about it, and I read a book which reminded me as well about that metaphor for what you're talking about on this book. And it's so true that we are kind of like the river, aren't we? Just the constant river flowing through us. And if there's trauma, the trauma's there with the little stick niggling away, or there's something really big a big log which steps in front of us. And these tools of healing and breath work, as an example, many different techniques, help the river just really flow and allow us to be in our body.
And you know, like with that in mind, if you try and combat or try and clear out all of it all at once, you're not going to get anywhere. So for me, one of the big things in my journey has been focusing on one twig at a time. And I'm saying that because I didn't do that first. Just trying to like get fully healed as quickly as possible. And there's no such thing. It's a constant process. So by really focusing on one part of your life, one aspect of yourself that you're struggling with. So let's say, and for me, one of my biggest traumas was I got dekegged at school, right? Created so much shame. I don't know where that came from, but you know, it created so much like shame about my body. And I'm sure that like it shut down my sexuality a lot in terms of this like shame about my sexuality. And if I can just focus on that one memory, even because there's going to be other aspects that created a distortion in the way that I am with my sexual body, with my, you could say, second chakra, you know, lots of different ways of describing it. But I think a lot of the time, and when I'm working with clients, they like, you ask them about something like that, and a whole flurry of things comes out. But if we can just go back to that one memory, all right, and go back to that one memory, feel it in the body, feel it to heal it, experience and find out where it is. And something I use with clients is the leaf method, which I kind of created or cultivated. And you just locate. So L, you locate. So you really find in your body where that pain is stored. You excavate, and that can be done using breath work, yoga, meditation, sounding. I love to tone. I find that really powerful, like toning, just really trying to go to the vibration of the pain. So it might sound like really ugly, and it might not sound good. You know, you're not trying to sing, you're just trying to like make the sound of the pain in the body that you feel. And then anchor, which is like anchoring a new vibration. So then you might tone something empowering. You might like step into your power in that moment, using whatever. Like sometimes it's getting your body into a good, strong position, lifting your chest, you know, feeling back in your power, so that you can kind of like in the excavation, you feel how you felt when you were traumatized, when you were in that trauma. You have to feel it. You have to like actually be there. And that's why it's so hard to do this work. And why most people probably maybe start and then they can't, it's too much, you know, awakening is like so painful, you know, it's probably easier to be asleep and be numb, but you can't go back to sleep once you've awoken. So might as well keep walking forwards. And then coming into the anchoring of a new state, right? A new state of being. Like, I'm not going to feel this shame anymore. I'm not going to let myself be controlled by it. Like, affirmations can be good at that point, but like really affirming it in the body as well. And then the last part of that is fortify, which is like, you've created this new state of being. And then often you're like, oh, go out in the world and just kind of show this new state of being to everybody. But the fortification is actually more of a containing of it and like a protecting of it. It's like it's your baby and you protect that new state. So if you've been meditating and you've cultivated some joy within yourself, you've got through some pain and you've cultivated some joy, chances are you go out in the world and the first thing that pisses you off is going to take you away, take you out of that state, man. Like, yep. and just trying to like really hold on to that state, you know, is the fortification.
That's a beautiful way, beautiful words there. It's very important, and for me, what I've learned throughout the years, like you saying, JotePrakash, is you use the leaf method, which is essentially inner work, and it's so important for us to do our inner work, because if we don't do our inner work, we have holes in our aura, and things, like you say, can get in that back door and manifest into our reality. I've experienced it firsthand. I had a huge breakup about 12 years ago. It was a long relationship. It was a breakup. I completely stopped that relationship. I started taking drugs, started doing stuff I wasn't usually doing, just to kind of fill this gap. And it only really started in the last say 3.5 years, where I still hadn't worked on this trauma of this pain from this relationship. 12 years ago, I'm not, don't think about that person. It was just, but it was still manifesting my aura. And like you used the leaf, I had to really do some serious work on that. And when I started like you say, going through those leaves bit by bit, I started getting more of my spirit back, more of my strength back. And from me doing that, and now regularly now, every few weeks I'll go into, or a month, I'll go into different traumas, go back there and maybe send a treatment back or do different things. And it really has, like, it's completely changed my life. Like what you're doing, the leaf technique, and going back and fixing those areas, because it's so important. Especially where I used to run events, I used to do events with lots of people, and now it's so different because I'm more aware of what my flaws are, what stuff I really need to work on. Where before I was 100 miles an hour just wanting to do this and that, do this event, do that event, and I burnt myself out, and I had to hit rock bottom to rebirth myself, start again, die and be reborn. And like JotePrakash, you saying about your journey of you looking back at that first time you had the rising dawn, and you look at some of the mistakes you had then, but in this present moment of the now, you've learned so much from that, and you're manifesting in a different way because you're a different person now. And that's JotePrakash. It's a beautiful analogy, that the leaf technique, for anybody out there. It's a great one, that.
Mm. And I think as well that a big part of the work that I'm really interested in is embodiment and somatic release. I think if we don't really clear energy in the body, we're just going to keep going round and round in circles. And you can actually, and even on a very subtle level, maybe you guys do this, but I know too, but I do this, and I know a lot of people that do as well. And it's where you use your mind. You can really use your mind, you can use your brain to make yourself feel better, and go from feeling maybe a bit low or depressed to feeling better just with your mind, with your thoughts. Like, your mind creates your reality. That's wonderful in one sense of the word. But if you've bypassed anything in your body that wanted to be looked at, then it's going to come back stronger. It's just going to come back the next day, even worse probably, because what you resist persists. So it's called, it's got a word now. It's called cognitive bypassing. So it's where you actually use your mind to feel better, but you haven't actually gone into the trauma stored in the cells. And it creates this this sense of joy, or a high vibration, right? But it's like got holes. It's like a colander. It's got holes. So you try and put water in this. You try and put this like good feeling in this container, but it's all gonna fall out of the bottom. And like, to create sustainable joy, like joy that's there, and it's not this kind of ecstasy thing. This is my experience anyway. This kind of like going for the ecstasy, for the heightened states, it just creates this roller coaster effect. It's a much more deep sense of peace and joy. And ecstasy is there too, and the dances and things like that, but it has to be balanced with this slowness. So if you've been really ecstatic at ecstatic dance, then I find it, for me anyway, I would then the next day have some real deep, soft, grounding stillness. And this creation of your container, like strengthening your nervous system. Because if you can't hold that heightened vibration, we're all going to be like given so many high vibrations this year. I can feel it coming, right? But if we don't have the nervous systems to handle it, it's going to create this effect of like a battery getting shot full of electricity. If the battery isn't strong enough to contain that electricity, it could also be like the Kundalini energy, and it courses through our body. And if we don't have a container, if we don't have a nerve strong enough to hold that Kundalini, which is your creative potential, which is your creative energy, also your sexual energy, kind of comes through the body like that. And that's that feeling of awakening as Kundalini is moving. We're gonna create more problems for ourselves than we're actually gonna like heal or progress, because we need to. And I will say here now as a disclaimer, like the nervous system strengthening That's the hard stuff. That's the real nitty gritty stuff of like going and physically, like, you know, you could go to the gym or you could do yoga, but it's like, that's the kind of the physical exercise, the more lower chakra stuff, the real like special pain, as my teacher called it.
Outstanding. And that's great, because I've experienced that firsthand. In one of the processes I use, I call it the coyote comes calling, which is coyote, the animal totem, is a trickster spirit. And whenever I ignore a lesson or, like, you know, push it to the back, and it comes back stronger the next year, and now I see it and I laugh and I say, I see you, coyote, calling again. And now I'm going to do that work to actually transmute this and out create this problem which is going round and round, and next year I'd see it come out again, I'd laugh, I'd start laughing at it and go, I see you, coyote, for what you are. and have that fun and laughter about it, and just see those weird patterns we get into, those weird cycles, and giggle at them, just point at them, to see them for what they are. And like you say, JotePrakash, do that inner work, because that's so important for that system, for the emotional body. Outstanding. And Jonny, what's your dealings with trauma and your take on it?
Yeah, things getting stored physically, you know, I think, and I really connect with what JotePrakash is saying there, you know, cognitive bypassing. And I think early on in my journey, it was, you know, I took a lot of drugs recreationally and a lot of drink, and at the time I was just living in this bubble of like good times, and just feeling blissed out, you know, feeling ecstatic, and just staying on that vibe. And it was like in my youth I was kind of invincible in some way, and then there was a time when I discovered meditation and spirituality, and I started becoming more aware, and it was like that bubble just popped, and I was just sitting with the emotions that I'd been covering up, and then physical symptoms started manifesting. And a lot of it for me has been around the solar plexus and the digestion, and really like feeling into that, what's there, what's really going on there. And there's a lot of, but I've learned it's about control, you know, when we're trying to control things. And it's about, solar plexus is all about our personal identity, so our own sense of self, you know. It's the solar energy, it's the sun energy, it's our ability to radiate outwards and kind of be a centered individual that has a strong sense of self. And things can inhibit that, but you know, so I'm sure you guys have explored this yourself, like when there's a physical symptom, there's an emotional root cause of it, and there's so many reasons why we can be holding these emotional patterns. So for me, it's been about going back and discovering what emotional patterns have I kind of built up at an early age that I'm still carrying now. One of the greatest teachings that I've discovered myself is a book called Heal Your Wounds and Find Your True Self. And the woman there talks about the 5 key wounds of rejection, abandonment, betrayal, humiliation, and injustice. And I've gone through those, and it tells you how different body types correspond to the different wounds. So rejection would be quite a thin person. It's almost like they're trying to disappear because they withdraw. And abandonment is someone that's quite hunched over. Betrayal is someone that has issues around the solar plexus, actually. And so it's things like that I've looked at, and then realized, oh wait, I'm like still holding this grief around my grandma dying, and like feeling like I had no idea that I was carrying that. I thought I just thought I got rid of that, you know. I thought it didn't faze me that much, and it wasn't until about a year later, 2 years later, where I started like uncovering. I was like, what is this here? And then just feeling all this like sadness and grief there. And yeah, did so much crying after that and releasing, and then the energy just moved into the heart, you know, and it's been a process of that, like letting go of the tensions that we hold here, emotional tensions, and allowing the energy to rise into the heart. And that's been a lot of my journey, you know, learning to come back into my heart and come out of the closed state of tension around the solar plexus. So, you know, that's what I've really put into my teachings that I do with people, you know, when we breathe and then we connect with our hearts and we allow the energy to just resolve in the heart space. So that's one of the most simple teachings that, like, I can offer from my own journey, that vibration of allowing yourself to melt into the heart space, and the tears to come, and the love to just bring resolution inside.
Outstanding, and that's something I've dealt with my my father passed last summertime, the end of last summer. He passed away, and probably back end of last year was one of the hardest times I've ever been through in my life. And like JotePrakash, you were talking about, you've got to work, really go within and fix all of the stuff within. And for me, it was when you've got someone who's crossed over, it becomes memory, all of your memories. But for me, it was now fixing all of the stuff with him, or the inner child stuff with him, the forgiving him and stuff like that. And it's just a never-ending process, isn't it? Like you say, it's not an event, it's a process. We should be doing it all times, and it's okay if something comes up in the future and it's from 20 years ago or 18 years ago. That's just how it's meant to be. And stuff like even massage, I do pericardium work, which is, JotePrakash, you were talking about the river. With the Native American term, they call it like the sacred waters. So you've got your pericardium space, which is the water sac around your heart, which is basically holds loads of different memory of like betrayal, stuff like that. And that's what I've been working on lately, is reprogramming my sacred waters. So I've been imprinting it with and letting go. And if I feel there's a trauma down there, I'll be impressing light in and removing that trauma. So we're all just finding our way into our journeys, aren't we? And we're kind of learning the next day, relearning, learning, and it's incredible to see how both of you have transformed and how far you've come since we last time we spoke. Anything to add to that, JotePrakash?
Yeah, I liked it when Jonny said first time he sits down meditating, you know, and like, oh no, got nowhere to run, got nothing to distract me. You know, I remember that moment so well. That first time I sat down and meditated, I was like 1 minute in, and then my hips were in agony, my knees were in agony, and my shoulders felt all weird and out of place. My neck was all wrong. Everything was wrong. I was like being barraged by my mind. Just this sense of like absolute relentless. The things I was saying to myself were relentless, just like so brutal. And yeah, I think like it's just about perseverance. It's about steady practice. And I had this sense within me when I first started getting into meditation and yoga, was like, man, I'm not waiting around now. I'm going fully in. And I just had this like, I just dived in. So I started like everything. I took on everything. I did all the diets, and I was doing my practice, and I'm still doing my practice like 2.5 hours a day, and started wearing a turban, changed my name, things like that. And I was just like, just really knowing that I really felt like I had a clear path, and I just needed to like just do it. But there was something driving me, and I still don't quite fully know what that was, because I just remember it being so difficult getting up on a morning, getting up at 4:15 in the a.m. every morning, cold showers, sitting down for the meditation. And for instance, we do this 20-minute prayer at the start of Kundalini yoga morning practice called Japji. It's a Sikh prayer, and it just felt agonizing every morning. Just sitting there, this prayer, 20 minutes every morning. And I don't know why I kept coming back. It was something like out of my cognitive understanding as to why I kept coming back and sitting in that space. It's called the Song of the Soul. It was calling in my soul. And I was like, every part of me that didn't want to be married to my soul was fighting back and fought back for years, you know? But after a couple of years of doing it and staying committed, basically doing this 20-minute prayer every day alongside other physical things and meditations and lots of different stuff, it started to soften and quieten. And now getting up for Japji it's a blessing. It's blissful. It's beautiful. I can't wait to be in that space on my own. I enjoy my own company, and finally, for the first time, I enjoy being with myself. Just sitting, doing nothing. Just sitting and being. And one of my growing edges at the moment is to not just cultivate that within my own morning practice, but actually throughout the day. Instead of like because I am still very much in that space during the day of, if I've got a moment spare, I'll pick up my phone and scroll a bit. Whereas like, I'm just trying to create a new habit of coming back to that space throughout the day and just sitting, being, waiting for something, you know? And they say what you're searching for is searching for you. So let's let it come to us, huh?
Outstanding. And that's it. Discipline. You sound like you've ingrained the discipline into you, and the journey's become the process. And it's kind of like the computer's been installed now fully. And that I've had that experience with my practice. I basically got to the point the first few years where I got to the point where my practice became toxic, because I wasn't then taking a bit of time off it through the day to go, right, I'm not doing anything spiritual now. I'm going to do 3D stuff and forget about it, then go back onto the path. So through the years, from me as well, it takes, there's that effort, isn't it, where you go through those programs which are undisciplined, those programs what don't want to be here. Then you eventually find the repetition with illumination, and you refine that clarity when you start going and doing it. And it got me to the stage now where I do my practice 6 days a week. I do 90 minutes a day, 6 days a week, and I have 1 day off a week. And then I go back onto my journey, and I'm more inspired because I've found more of a grounded balance within me. Because I got to the point 4 years ago where I despised what I was doing, because I was just sick of doing it. I'm like doing the same thing over and over again. And throughout the time, I've learned variety to stay on from my personal experience. Variety is one of the most important things as well. So you've got like your yoga, breath work, meditation, guided meditation, all of those, and having a variety of stuff to do is so important. So we'll bring you in, Jonny. Why is variety in your journey important to do, instead of just doing same thing over and over again, like JotePrakash was talking about? Sometimes it does hold us back a little bit.
Nice. I really like that. Yeah. Taking a break and starting back at it again. Yeah, I find that often we don't recognize where we are until you step outside of it, and then you can look back in. And I find spirituality, like the path has been like that for me. You know, it's a process of sitting further and further back from where I am, and maybe looking back after about 2 weeks, 3 weeks of doing that practice, and then being like, wow, I have come a long way, you know, but you know, the eye can't see itself and the ear can't hear itself. It's like, we can't recognize where we are until we take a different vantage point. So this thing of variety as well, like utilizing different practices can kind of give us a different vantage point. And so, yeah, I've explored breath work, and that's really like helped me to come back to my body and the feeling and the energy, and just release without having any sort of understanding of where it comes from or anything like that, and just to be in that state of opening. And then you can have different practices where you're actually getting more of an understanding of something logically, which gives you yet another vantage point. You understand yourself from a mental understanding, and then, yeah, I mean, the most powerful thing for me has been meditation, and everything that's always been right in the center, because I find that gives you the ultimate vantage point, because it's beyond vantage points, really. Like, it's a space that is just, it's not located anywhere. The space that I've discovered in meditation is beyond form. And so you can see things with a sense of clarity from there. You can view anything, but inside you're free from being bound. You're free from being locked into any concentration. So yeah, but from there, you know, there's everything springs forth, and it's beautiful to explore all these different modalities that we've been talking about.
And it's interesting you say that, because through the years and what I've learned is there's so meditation, and if you can explain a little bit about what true meditation is, because there seems to be, for me, from my opinion on it, is I don't see guided meditation as meditation. I see that as journeying. But for meditation is true meditation when you're going within your body and you're allowing yourself just to go into that no time field where you're just in the space of the no time, in the space of the universe, and you're in that void where there's no possibility. The possibilities are endless. Something may happen, something may not happen. And for me, I've been noticing that about myself, that I have to make sure I have that time through the week where I'm like, right, I'm going into my heart and I'm visualizing my heartbeat, and I'm stepping into no time and breathing, using the breath work and doing stillness work where I'm so still that you go into that really low brainwave state, and it's like you get that nice warm fuzzy feeling and you go into such a lovely state. But then there's the guided stuff, which I see it as more journeying. So can you just explain like meditation and what true meditation it really is about? Because there's a lot of stuff like out there which says this is meditation, that meditation, but from me, the true proper nitty-gritty organic meditation is just clearing the mind and emptying the mind and just being shapeless. As Bruce Lee says, shapeless and formless.
Yeah, well, I've discovered a lot of different practices on my way. You know, my journey's taken me to a lot of different practices, and I started with Buddhism, and I read a lot about the Buddha and what he was teaching, and I had this book, and it was called The Island, and on the back of it, it spoke about nirvana, and it's a place of no birth, no death, no time, a formless state. And at the time I was reading this book, and it was so complicated, you know, like it's like they're trying to intellectualize all these concepts, but I was still like just making my way through it and trying to understand it. In hindsight, I see that I was just getting caught up in the complexity of it all. And then as my journeys progressed, I discovered this particular style of meditation called the Path, and it's got various stages, but the most profound one that happened to me, and it's over a year ago now, it was it was an instant realization. It took me a long time to prepare to get to this point, and I did a lot of letting go and just exploring stillness. But it was an instant realization, and then at that point, it was like I popped out of the box, you know, and I was no longer in or out of the box. There just was no box anymore, and it was that space that was being spoken about, the island, the space beyond birth and death and beyond form. It presented itself, and I recognized that I was in a box before, and I'd never been outside of that box. And so that was from this very particular style of meditation, and I went on to write a song about it. Actually, it's called The Island, and in the song, it's very poetic, but I've gone beyond where the sea flows, where the flowers grow. I've reached the island. I've touched the solid ground, and that's what it felt like. Like the whole of my life had been in a ever-changing sea, and which was always changing and always morphing from one form into another. And you have the waves, but you know, you can't really say where one wave starts and another one ends. It's just one ever-moving, flowing sea. and actually the solid ground is the stillness that sits behind that all. And this, it's funny how the solid ground becomes the thing that initially felt quite intangible, this inner space. Actually, the inner space is the most solid thing that we can connect with, because it's not changing. It's not ever flowing. It is still, and it never changes. It doesn't go anywhere. It has nowhere to go to, because it's already there. So it's already everywhere.
Outstanding. And so it sounds like you're perceiving, and which is a great way of you're realizing we are living in a dream world. And even though we go from the actual, our dreaming body goes out and dreams at night, we come back into this physical, but when we transcend and bring the dream world into the physical realm and realize that we are living a dream, me dreaming you, JotePrakash dreaming me, and all the planet dreaming us as well, and we go into that mystical zone where we realize that we're in a dream weave, and the unseen and the seen world are kind of coming together. And if the whole humanity knew that, there'd be a totally different world. But we've shown this physical is just the physical, and that's it. JotePrakash, have you got anything to add about the stillness meditation, brother?
For me, meditation is about getting super present and just trying to observe the tiniest things in the body and bring awareness, and then bring more awareness, because I think we have levels of awareness. Like we think we're aware when we wake up in the morning, but often we're probably on our habit loops. We're just kind of going around on autopilot. Meditation for me is a chance to get really aware, in a deep sense of the word, in terms of becoming aware of the body, becoming aware of any emotions, becoming aware of the thoughts, and to start to cultivate a relationship with your thoughts. So they come in and they go, and see if you can actually start to hear your thoughts. And that once in a meditation where I was like imagining my thoughts like the Star Wars entry screen titles, and it's like usually your thoughts are like just barricading you like hot pins or like a battering ram, and it's like boom 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 one thought. See if you can slow them down like that, like the Star Wars title screen. See them coming down across the face of your mind, or from left to right, you know, like clouds. Can you observe these thoughts coming and going? And then a surrendering. There's always a surrendering process for me. So like observation, surrender, a surrendering of the thoughts, a surrendering of the mind to something larger than oneself. And for me, I call that God. So it's a surrendering to God. When I sit down, it's like, how can I just become aware of everything that's going on for me, and then make a conscious decision using my own free will to surrender that which is difficult, or even that which is beautiful, surrendering in with gratitude to the Creator, to the God within me, to my inner guru, you know. And we say Waheguru in the Sikh tradition, and it means I am in ecstasy when I experience darkness transforming into light. And it's Waheguru is also a bit like wow, I can't, like it's this sense of wonderment at the vastness of this universe. And I talk about Waheguru moments, because for me it's like it comes and it goes, you know. As we softly kind of devote a bit more and we surrender a bit more and we live in that more, yeah, sometimes it's just like a moment of total wonder at the experience of life. And if we don't slow down and come into that stillness on a regular basis, how are we ever going to experience that wonder? How are we ever going to feel the gratitude of how amazing it is to be in this body, having this life? No, and like what you have said, and you put it so simply, how like despite the fact that there's so much craziness going on, and if the world is crazy on the outside, why can't we let that polarize us even more into our inner world and into our stillness. Like if your world right now, for anyone listening, is feeling chaotic, for me, sometimes I can, if I'm in a state of surrender, if I can let myself go there, I can allow the chaos of the to bring more stability within, because it's more needed. It's like if you're in a room full of anxious people, and if you can be the one person who's at peace, relaxing, breathing, spreading out peaceful vibes, we learn through osmosis. We learn through, when we're children, and even adults, we all learn through like this transmission of energy. And if you can be the one person taking a deep breath, it's like you're such a good point of reference. You're doing such good service in that moment. So I see it as the more that the world tries to beat me down, the more I'm going to rise up. There's nothing that anyone can do about that.
Outstanding. And that's it, that we are the Rainbow Warriors and the Peace Warriors. There's a great book, one of my favourite books is The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, which is all about stepping in and all life's journey and becoming the warrior, but in a peaceful way. And it reminded me, JotePrakash, when you were talking then, one of the practice I do, I go each week, I'm lucky to have it on my road, is a flotation tank. So it's a sound deprivation tank. And it's interesting when you go into that tank and you're literally in the pitch black, no noise, you understand how many fucking programs you have coming on. Like you said, the Star Wars, it's a great way of looking at it, because I'm always there at the start of my meditation, do the breath work first when I'm in the tank, and all I say is no. And I say no for about 5 minutes of saying these programs, no, no, no. When it comes in again, this weird thought, no. And eventually I say no that much, it stops, and I eventually go deeper into it. And it's so true, though. It's such a great way of seeing it. It is. If for everyone listening out there, make a sacred space, protect yourself, go into stillness and just laugh and see which thing comes up first. The Agent Smith, the program coming in saying, right, think about this, think about that. So you come out of your Dharma and you go into the state of the program again.
And if people really struggle with, because I think there's no right or wrong way to do this, meditation for me is like, if we look at it in terms of awareness, surrender, and then gratitude, as those three sort of stages I was just feeling into there. There's no right way of doing that. And I think that if you really struggle to sit in stillness, and this is just, for some people, that's just too much. For this moment in time, it could just be too much to try and just be in stillness, sitting down. Like for a long period of time, maybe, but maybe starting with 1 minute or 3 minutes, just to be there with yourself. And another thing for me, which has been super helpful, is the free flow writing, like in the artist's way, morning pages, just every morning. And this is, again, like made me think after talking about the Star Wars title screen, it's a bit like that. You're just writing out whatever is on the screen of your mind, but you bring it onto the paper. Basically take it from the back of your brain, the limbic system, into the frontal cortex, where you can see it clearly, where you can you have, there's awareness. That's what's going on in my head right now. Usually that's enough. That's all it is. You just see it there on paper in the 3D world. Oh my gosh, look at what I'm thinking. That is so much garbage. Why am I just stop thinking that? And you just keep doing morning pages. Sometimes just do 1 page of free flow writing, or 3 pages, and you just see the stream of rubbish. And then you sometimes you've gone through oh, I feel this, I feel that, and then this garbage comes out. But then after, if you just keep writing, some of your greatest creative ideas, they're like the gold. It's like prospecting for gold. So there's this gold piece just comes out of nowhere, and you're like, wow. And on the page, on the morning pages, that's like the idea for your next book, or the Facebook post that you want to write, or whatever it is. Just like the morning pages gives you space to do that. So like you said there, it's just creating spaces where you can allow that creativity to blossom.
Beautiful. And so before we close the show as well, it's been an absolute honor to have you on, and we'll have you on again at some point towards the end of the year or whenever, because I've really enjoyed this. It's nice go into different flows and see where the conversation. I love going into the unknown, and having no plan as a plan. It works out really well. So we'll start with you, Jonny. What have you got coming up in the future, or anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I have a repeat of the New Year's Eve event, which is a breathwork session. This obviously it's not going to be New Year's Eve. This will be at the end of the month, January 29th, and it's at the Centered Community up in Halifax, which is a beautiful community that we've all discovered now. And yeah, I'll be doing breathwork session, and then it will move into like some food together, and then a dance in the evening, a party and a dance, and beautiful combination, the breath work helping people to just release and drop deeper and then go into the dance. It's a beautiful combination of deep work and then just like enjoyment and flow. And really excited about the men's camp coming up. So that's coming up on the third weekend January. Just JotePrakash told me it was sold out, which is incredible news. So excited about that, and just carrying on with the one-to-one coaching as well. I'm doing a lot of one-to-one breath work with people and helping them resolve emotional wounds from the past, and with the meditation at the center. So that's all the excitement coming up for me this year. It's going to be an amazing year. I feel really excited.
Thank you, brother. So JotePrakash, what have you got coming up? And if you send me all your website and like the center and all the events you're doing, I'll post them as well when I post the link up. So
yeah,
JotePrakash,
we've got the men's retreat at the third weekend of February. So yeah, this one in January is sold out, but if people want to get in on that, best thing to do is go to therisingdawnsanctuary.com. All the events will be on there, and all the new events I'll be posting will be there. We're located in Newcastle. I also do one-to-one sacred space holding. So, if you want to do what I was talking about then with the leaf method and things like that, and being held in that space, then get in touch. Find me on Instagram, The Creativity Wizard. Yeah, man, just really excited. Really, really excited. Going to be releasing details of our grand opening event, 18th to the 20th of March. So that's officially when we open the doors for the Rising Sanctuary up here in Newcastle. And yeah, people love to see you there.
Outstanding, and I'll make sure I come at some point. It's inspiring to have you both on. I'm inspired from this conversation. I love when that happens. So thank you again, JotePrakash and Jonny. I really appreciate you, brothers, and thank you everyone for listening to the Talking Stick Show. We'll be back next week. Thank you so much, brothers. Thank you. Thank
Blessings.
you. Bless you, brothers. Bye bye.